to Israel. Amen. Yes. I thought you would be a little bit excited about that. And so we have somebody very special with us on this Holy Week, and that's Moshe Goldin. And he does Israel tours, and very, very knowledgeable man, lives part-time there, part-time here. He brought a lot of things to help us connect the dots, and he's going to really, really educate us concerning how real the Bible is. Compared to the Dead Sea Scrolls. And he has so many. When I sat down with him and he gave me a few gifts, gave me some stuff that's 2,000 years old. So, you know, I'm touching stuff from Israel that's when Jesus was walking. So we really want this thing to come alive to you so that when we get ready to take that trip and we're walking in the Holy Land, and his name really means Moses, and we're going to have Moses take us through. If we can get him as the tour guide, we're going to have him take us through, and we're going to have a wonderful time. So I want you to pay very close attention. After he's finished his lecture, he is also going to give us time to ask questions. All right? Like I said, it's going to be a really educational night. You're really going to fall in love with Jesus a lot more because you will understand this is really, really real. So would you put your hands together and receive our guest as he comes forward to minister to us. Is that on? Yes, it's
on. Thank you for inviting me. It's a real pleasure to share what I have, just because Hebrew is my first language. I grew up in Israel. I was high school teacher for 33 years, mostly teaching history, geography, and a good background in archaeology, participating in many archaeological digs, and so on. Having this, and the love of the Bible, the Old and the New, okay, as was mentioned, connect the dots. The more we dig, these are facts. Archaeology is science. The more we dig, the more we find out how correct the Bible is. And I'll cover and give you a few examples as we go. Okay, so this is really amazing what we have in our hands. And if you have that background of the Hebrew, know the traditions, the people, and so on, the Bible becomes so much more meaningful. But I want you to know, and this is the bottom line here, the Bible that I'm holding right here, or you, the translation, this is Hebrew and English. It's the exact same Bible that Jesus, before and after, okay, held in his own hands. To the dot. Why? Soon. Okay, we have findings. These are facts. It's not made up. We'll come to it. So what we'll deal here, it's biblical archaeology. And since this is Passover, I will relate to Passover and give lots of examples from Passover. Passover is symbolizing freedom, coming out of Egypt, coming out of slavery. Now, a little of the biblical background. We're talking about 3 different nations. The natives of the land are the Canaanites. 12th century BC, I'm giving you a time frame, 12th century BC, 3,200 years ago, 2 nations moved in. The Israelites, Moses, Joshua, Aaron, his brother, 40 years in the desert. Do you know why it took 40 years? Number 1, 40 is a holy number. And number 2, who were the leaders, the men? You know, they don't stop to ask questions. Because if you walk straight, Egypt, Israel, you can cover it in 40 days. It took them 40 years. Okay, and then they took the land. At the same century, another nation moved in, the Philistines. They came from the Greek islands. They settled along the coastal plain, mostly the southern part. The Israelites on the mountain, Judea and Samaria, the 12 tribes. And the Bible goes on, the book of Judges, the kings, lots of battles between the Philistines and the Israelites. And one good example, David and Goliath. And it took place in a valley, and I can even tell you the exact spot, my version, but it answers all the ingredients in the Bible. And if you come to that valley, you can pick your own. Okay? And it really answers like where that skirmish between the Philistines and the Israelites took place. So this is what we have there as you travel and as you visit sites, and you can see that. I would like to start and make a connection and take you back in time. In this case, symbolically, I have an oil lamp, no genie, but it's a real oil lamp that was found in archaeological dig. It's in it's one piece, okay, just southwest of Jerusalem, in a Byzantine farm. Who are the Byzantines? In archaeology, or biblical archaeology in this case, we deal with different periods. Okay? So we had the Roman Empire. In the beginning of the 4th century, the Roman Empire became Christian, and the mother of the Caesar, Helena, came to the land in 325, and she built the first 3 churches. The Nativity in Bethlehem, the Holy Sepulchre, which is the site of the crucifixion, the burial and the resurrection in Jerusalem, and the church on top of Mount of Olives. 40 days after the resurrection, we had the Ascension. These are the first 3 churches. Okay? And now we have, and this is what you have to understand, we are talking about the same people, the Romans, but with a new religion. Okay? Until Constantine, that was the Caesar who became Christian, and with him the whole empire. Until then, Christianity is forbidden. If you were caught practiced, you were fed to the lions in public. And now, this is the official religion of the empire. So this belongs to a Christian family from the 4th or maybe the 5th century. That's the best that we know. They used it to lit their home, and they had few at home, every family, because there isn't much light. I did lit it about 4 years ago in a church in Victorville. So that was the first time, and in between the first and whatever was before, we have 1,500 years. And we will light it again. And how meaningful it is to light it in a church. And I'm taking you back to a Christian family just from the beginning. Okay, so this is a big honor. And I bought special matches, okay, that were bought here. These are not ancient. Okay, do we have a kid here? It's a real honor. Okay. They use olive oil in a wick. Right here. Done. Okay, it's the olive oil. The first time after, or the second time from the 5th century. Okay, we got the idea. Okay, how can we prove that the Bible is authentic? If you asked me before 1947, you couldn't because I was born in 1948. But if you did, the best answer that I could have was, there was a Bible 1,000 years old from a small town in northern Syria. The name is Aleppo. Small synagogue. And in 1948, May 48, when Israel became a state, there was a pogrom. and they set fire to the synagogue, and that Bible was damaged. A day after, the community came and they picked pages and they put it together. Some pages are still missing. It's on display in the Israel Museum today. And that Bible is exactly the same as today's Bible to that dot. But in 1947, two shepherds in the desert near the Dead Sea. The Dead Sea is the lowest place on earth, 1,350 feet below sea level. They were running after a lost goat, and they stumbled into a cave, and they found two jars, something this big, and they found in the jars scrolls. They didn't know exactly what they found. They sold it to antiquity dealers in Bethlehem. They got a lot of money, 10 British pounds. Okay? It was maybe enough for 2 months' salary at that time. Professor Sukenik at the Hebrew University heard about it, and he purchased 4 scrolls. He checked what this is all about. And when he really found out, he wanted to purchase the rest, but meanwhile the war broke out. In 1955, there was a tiny ad in an American newspaper, Wall Street Journal, and they were offered by a Syrian church for $500,000. The Israeli government purchased the scrolls. And later on, after the Jordanians conducted the archeological digs in the area, and after 1967, the Israeli government, what we found there, the whole Bible. Then it was not one book. Each biblical book was one scroll, but more than once, like Isaiah 8 times. The whole Bible is there except one book, the book of Esther, that tells us it probably came later. Okay, this is amazing. Now, open one of the scrolls, let's say Isaiah. It's also on display in the Israel Museum. And I can read it, because Hebrew is the same. The same to the dot. And why is that? Because when you copy the Bible, the Torah, the scrolls, the man who does it, okay, if he makes a mistake, he has to start all over again. And it will take months to complete. That's how the Bible is and still authentic. And the Bible that Jesus was holding in his hands, and he was teaching. What was teaching in those days? It's not like listening to a lecture. When he was 12 years old and he was found alone in the parents traveled the whole day back to Nazareth, and only then they found out that their son, 12 years old, is not with them. They went back to Jerusalem, found him in the temple, studying, teaching with the priests. Teaching in the Bible, and Jesus' teaching was more like an exchange of opinions. Okay? Because the saying is, I'm learning from my student. I'm learning from the question that I'm asked. And that was the way, and that's how the priest found out how knowledgeable he was. Okay, so this is studying in those days, studying, teaching. And here's the point, I made it as short as I could, okay, because this is just the Dead Sea Scrolls is a one-year course in the university, and I covered it in 3 minutes. Okay, but we got the point. The Bible is authentic. Here it is, authentic. Okay? This is the source of our faith, Judeo-Christian. This is it. Amen. Okay, how do we find things? Archaeology. We dig. We find in Israel and the Middle East, not just Israel, what we call tel, T-E-L. It's an artificial hill. And if you go through when you dig, it's like, think about the 7-layer cake. When you take the first slice, that's the beginning, you go all the way. And each level is a different period. How can I determine the periods? By determine what kind of pottery. If I find coins, that will give me a better indication. Glass, because we know when glass people were able to produce glass.